Alright guys, I'm on my way to Vaduz, the capital of Liechtenstein, and I'm now in the train station in Zurich. I'm gonna buy a ticket to this city. It's pretty well connected from Zurich. I'm in the train platform now, waiting for the train here that will take me to a city called Sargans. From there I'll change to a bus in order to get to Vaduz, the capital of Liechtenstein, which is a tiny small landlocked micronation stuck between Switzerland and Austria. In order to get there, you have a chance to book several classes, and that is actually the case with all Swiss trains. So you can book first class or you can book second class. Second class is of course a bit cheaper. It's pretty expensive to go there from Zurich. It costs €80 round trip or 80 Swiss franc round trip if you book through a website, which is the official train website here. I'll link it down in the description below. If you book from one of these vending machines, it costs a bit more, and I think it costs around €80 just for the trains. But with this kind of ticket you get the bus transport in addition from Sargans to Vaduz. So I'm gonna enter the train now. This is gonna take approximately 1 hour in order to get to Sargans, and from there I'll take a bus which will take me to Vaduz eventually. From this website, which is the official name of the train station. Alright guys, I managed to get off in Sargans, and it's not much I was about to see before I had to enter the bus, because the bus departs pretty much after you arrive in Sargans. Now I'm on the bus. It's gonna take approximately 20 minutes in order to get to Vaduz, and see you guys there in Liechtenstein, my next country. Alright guys, I finally arrived to Liechtenstein and the capital Vaduz. Liechtenstein is actually the world's richest nation. In addition to that, it's also the world's smallest nation, and it's one of 5 microstates in Europe, in addition to Monaco, Andorra, San Marino, Liechtenstein, and the Vatican State, of course. So what is my purpose to go here? Of course, I'm a traveler and I love to cross borders, and I, like many others, have this kind of goal to reach all the countries in the whole world. And of course, when you are in Switzerland, you have to visit Liechtenstein. I felt I had to visit Liechtenstein because from Switzerland or Zurich, it's a simple journey, 1.5 hours, including one transit in the Swiss city of Sargans, and then you take a direct bus to Vaduz, the capital. So, pretty much the first impression of Liechtenstein. My first goal here is to reach the castle, which is one of those landmarks that you have to see when you are here, I've heard. So as you can see, it's situated on top of the mountain there. From the bus station in Vaduz, the one I arrived in, it takes approximately 20 minutes to hike to the top of the mountain. And just look at this Alp view here that you see when you arrive to Vaduz. I have to admit that these mountains here, this chains that you see on the way to Liechtenstein are practically breathtaking. They're so tall and they are so mighty, and they kind of stretches up to 5 meters above sea level, which is quite crazy. In Norway we have maximum 2,500 meters above sea level, but here it's like double. And this mountain change here is one of the reasons that Switzerland and these Alp countries have so many tourists. So just to tell you guys a little bit about Liechtenstein. So Liechtenstein is a small micronation between Austria and Switzerland. It's also the world's richest nation. So its money income is practically living on various industries, tourism, and being a tax haven for foreigners. Its industry is, ironically enough, and this is pretty much a fun fact, one of their main income is actually production of false teeth. And here is a description of how these lords of Liechtenstein were formed and how they're actually living up there in the castle that you see behind there. So let's read. The family of the lords of Liechtenstein is first recorded in the first half of the 12th century. That is pretty much similar to the reign of Monaco and a contemporary prince and duke of Monaco, the monarchy's duke who rules Monaco. And yeah, a lot of old history here, Karl I, blah, blah, blah. And today it's Hans Adam II, who is the 13th reigning prince of Liechtenstein. I heard that this prince of Liechtenstein, actually, it's a pretty fun fact that they actually have a very close relationship to the people of Liechtenstein. So actually, the residence that you see there has pretty much a family bond with this prince. So he is practically ruling this small micronation. Once a year, I heard that this guy here who is living there, the prince, is actually coming all the way down to Vaduz to say hello to the people. So you can actually meet the prince of Liechtenstein at that time. So unfortunately, this castle here seems to be closed for visitors. There is a gate there, but it seems to be private, and I'm actually not sure if I can enter. But anyway, it was definitely worth the hike, even though I couldn't see much else of the castle than you see here. But anyway, just to explain shortly about this reign here. So Hans Adam II is the ruler of Liechtenstein, and this country is practically based on this douche here, because as other small micronations in Europe like Monaco, the Vatican States, San Marino and Andorra, they are all, as Liechtenstein, based on this princess that rules the country and who has done that for several hundred years. And when I checked the description down there, it was also from the 12th century that the monarchy's douche also came into rulement of the Monaco government, the Grimaldi family, as I remember when I was visiting Monaco last year. So this seems to be the main square of Vaduz. It's 6 p.m. in the evening and it's pretty dead here. But there are not many people living in Liechtenstein. In fact, they only have a population of 38,000 people, which makes it one of the most densely populated countries in the whole world. Yet it's also one of the smallest, as I said before, this nation here is just a tiny nation packed between Switzerland and Austria. And in fact, it's the most landlocked nation in the whole world beside Uzbekistan. And the most landlocked nation in the whole world term practically means that it's so landlocked that even all its neighbor countries are landlocked. Practically, it means that if you are the most landlocked country in the whole world, your neighbor countries doesn't border with any sea or any oceans at all. And in fact, that's the case here, because Switzerland and Austria, which are the only border countries to Liechtenstein, none of them actually border the sea. They're also landlocked. So it's pretty fascinating. Yet we have open border policy in Europe, and since Liechtenstein is, along with Switzerland, part of the Schengen area, it's pretty easy to cross the borders. It's more difficult in Uzbekistan, a country I visited last year, to cross any borders, because their borders are not free and open like they are in EU and Europe. So, pretty much the city center. It reminds me a little bit of Monaco. Streets are very narrow. It's very strict rules. I heard that the rules in Liechtenstein are pretty strict, and that's one reason that it's a very safe country. Petty crime doesn't exist practically, because if you do something here, you are going to be punished very harshly. As well, most of the residents here are actually foreigners. They come from Switzerland, Austria, or Germany mainly. Also some French people, but you rarely see a person who is purely from Liechtenstein. That's very rare. Of course, they exist out there. So, the same as Switzerland, Liechtenstein is also famous for its industries. Like you see here, you have these Swiss brands, this necklace and clocks, and Liechtenstein is also producing this kind of stuff. As I mentioned earlier, they're one of the biggest, they are actually the biggest producers of false teeth, which makes it a very export-friendly nation, and they have very good collaboration with other nations. Another fact about Liechtenstein is that they joined the EEA agreement in '95, and because of that, if you have a European SIM card, you can roam freely here with your SIM card. You have 4G, which is not the case in Switzerland, because Switzerland is a very neutral nation, and they have closed that kind of agreement with other nations. So if you have a European SIM card like I have on my phone, you can't roam freely because of their neutrality. And it's also one reason that Switzerland is one of the safest countries in the whole world for doing businesses, because your money is pretty much kept safe there. And it's also one reason that their banking industry is so big, because foreign banks actually invest a lot to have their money in such a safe country as Switzerland. Now I've been walking around in the city center of Vaduz. The vibe here is, I don't know what to say. It's pretty empty here to be 6 p.m. in the day, in the evening, for such a Central European nation. And also today is Friday even, which makes the whole situation pretty crazy when thinking about it, but can't expect more for a country who has less than 40,000 residents. So another fact of Liechtenstein is that it's practically based on industry with small but significant agricultural sector. They also have some services like tourism, and actually there are a lot of travelers from all around Europe who visit Liechtenstein, easy accessible from Switzerland. they have very close collaboration with each other, and actually in some political cases Switzerland represents Liechtenstein. For instance, in the Union of EFTA, Liechtenstein was represented by Switzerland, which is pretty interesting, and it shows the close collaborations between those two countries. As you see there, you have the banks, the National Bank of Liechtenstein. This is just a domestic bank, but in this country, including Switzerland as well, there are so many foreign banks who actually invest in having both establishing banks there and having their money in these banks because of the safety of these countries, never going to any wars against anybody. None of them are member of NATO, for instance, and it just makes the perfect environment for safety when it comes to investors and these businesses. Like Switzerland, Liechtenstein is supposed to be a super expensive country to spend money on. So you should definitely prepare a lot of money when traveling to these two countries, because for instance, the average salary is pretty high, and I heard that the wage here is around 25 to 30 euro per hour. Liechtenstein is using the same currency as Switzerland, the Swiss franc. Liechtenstein was a pretty interesting place to see. It's like any other micronations. You can pretty much see it in a day. And there is actually a new trend these days, especially on YouTube, to walk across Liechtenstein in as short time as possible. So people walk past it in approximately 6 hours. That's the average, I heard. I'll be heading back to Zurich now. I'll go to the bus station down there and then head to Sargans and then take the train to Zurich. So while we wait for the train, I'll just shorten up a summary of how the day was with Liechtenstein. Pretty interesting country to visit. You should definitely spend some hours there. Go there during daytime, I would recommend. I was just lucky that I could see the light when I arrived there, so pretty bad planned from my side, but I recommend going there during daytime instead, because it's probably much more beautiful landscape to see than during evening time. Still pretty cool, pretty easy to get there from Zurich. In my case, I took a train from Zurich. It's actually, no, it's not written there, but it's this express train, these red trains. It's directly to Sargans. From Sargans you change to bus 12E or 11. 12E is an express bus, 11 is this local bus, so it takes a bit more time. I recommend booking through the website that I will link in the description there, because the tickets will be slightly cheaper compared to if you buy from a machine in the train station of Zurich, for instance, in my case. That's pretty much it from Liechtenstein. I hope you enjoyed this video here. A pretty short day trip or afternoon trip to Vaduz, the capital of the world's smallest country, Liechtenstein. Pretty interesting to see. I definitely recommend you to stay there for some hours, and see you guys in the next video.